All right, we are live. Hey, how is it going? It is your muscle building coach, Lee Hayward, with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, June the 21st. And the way these video chats work is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour or so, answering any questions that you may have with regards to building muscle, losing body fat, getting yourself back in shape, improving your overall health, and just more or less feeling better about yourself. That's what it's all about, right? I mean, like that's the whole purpose of doing this. We want to enhance our overall health, fitness, feel better, live life to the fullest. So if you have any questions, comments, topics of discussion, anything related to fitness, nutrition, and all that good stuff, please feel free to post it in our video chat window, and I'll do my best to help you out during our chat. Now, before I get too far into this, I want to do a quick little audio video check to see if this is actually coming through. Can you hear me? Can you see me? All that good stuff, because I have had issues in the past where I've been get caught up talking and realize I'm just talking to myself because the audio or something or the video is not working. So if you could do me the biggest kind of favor, while I'm just getting a few things organized here on my end, if you can let me know if you can hear me, see me, and all that, I would greatly appreciate it. So let's see what we got here. Loud and clear, loud and clear. Thank you. Thank you. Good stuff. Now, I didn't have a video chat last week, so I missed last week, but back on track again this week. So let's jump into it. Without further ado, we'll just keep the momentum going, keep it happening. All right, let's see what we got. I believe it's Ross joining us. Who else? Sean's joining us. Some of the regulars. If you are a regular of this video chat, please throw me the letter R down in the chat window. The letter R if you are a regular. And if you are brand new, you've never tuned into one of these video chats before, throw me the letter N for new. I'd just like to get an idea of who's new, who's a regular. And the new would even count if this is your first time attending the chat live, because I know some people cannot make these video chats live because, I mean, obviously we got an international audience, and what's a convenient time for me may not be a convenient time for somebody else in another corner of the globe. So if you're brand new, put the letter N in there. And I just want to get a feel for how many people we've got joining these chats. I'm new. All right, let's jump into it. First question. Said, Lee, I've done my workouts this week, and I asked a friend about supplements he takes, and he said when he's cutting, he only has protein powder. However, when he's bulking, he has protein, creatine, glutamine. Is it worth me buying glutamine and creatine? What's the benefits? I did watch your video last night on creatine. Well, good. You probably have your answer right there if you watch my video about creatine. The same is going. I'm pretty much going to duplicate that with glutamine as well. Glutamine is it's a non-essential amino acid, but it's a very plentiful amino acid in the body. So if it's one of those things, it's certainly not going to hurt, right? It's not an expensive supplement. It's not going to hurt. It can help you to keep your body in more of an anabolic state, prevent muscle breakdown. So it's beneficial for both bulking and cutting. And that applies with creatine as well. Like your friend says he doesn't take creatine when he's cutting. Personally, I would take creatine when I'm cutting. I take creatine year round, just like I would take a multivitamin year round or a protein powder year round. I mean, take the creatine year round. And the reason for that is not only does it help you to increase your strength and build muscle while bulking, but from a fat loss point of view, it helps to preserve muscle while you're dieting. So it can help you to maintain your muscle size, your fullness, your strength while you're in a low-calorie diet. So it has beneficial aspects for both. And the same applies with glutamine. It can help you to maintain your muscle while you're dieting. So I would recommend taking them in those situations. In fact, if you really want to get down to the nitty-gritty, it's probably more advantageous to take them when you're in a fat loss phase versus when you're in a bulking phase. Because when you're in a bulking phase and you got a caloric surplus coming in, you're not going to be losing muscle as easily as you will if you're in a calorie deficit, and you know, you're obviously don't have the raw materials in terms of the food and the calories, so you're going to be at more of a greater risk of losing muscle and going catabolic. So these supplements can actually help with that. All right, let's see what else we got. All right, Sean is joining us. He says, Lee, my ass gets big and I have an anterior pelvic tilt. Should I stop training legs for a while to get atrophy in the glutes? How do you fix an anterior pelvic tilt? Okay, first off, if you have a muscle imbalance in, you know, okay, your glutes are too big. Obviously, I don't know what your glutes look like, right? I've never, I haven't seen your butt, but I get this question a lot. A lot of guys think their butt is too big, and really, I think it's kind of we're playing our own mind game here, right? Because we sometimes think it's too big, but it's probably not, right? I mean, the glutes are a very important muscle group. They're important for athletic performance, you know, your squats, your deadlifts, your running, jumping. I mean, the glutes are a major muscle group in terms of athletic performance. So it's one of those that you should have well-developed glutes. If you're a lifter, you want to have well-developed glutes. Like, and even from a bodybuilding and aesthetic point of view, you still want to have well-developed glutes. I mean, not only are good glutes attractive on a female, but they're attractive for males as well. I mean, if you were to survey ladies, most ladies don't like flat pancake asses on men or women, right? They like to have a little bit of junk in the trunk in both cases. So it's advantageous to have, you know, a bit of something there in the back, right? To fill out the back of your pants and to hold it up. So I wouldn't stop training your legs. If it is to the point where you really do honestly feel that your glutes and legs are overpowering your upper body, which can happen. I mean, when I was younger, excuse me, when I was younger, my legs actually were overdeveloped compared to my upper body. And a lot of that had to do because I was really into bike riding when I was younger, BMX biking, mountain biking. I also did a lot of martial arts. So there was a lot of stretching, a lot of kicking, a lot of leg exercises. And of course, with martial arts, things like holding the horse stance and a lot of exercise that really placed a lot of emphasis on my legs. Plus, I got good genetics for legs. So when I was early in my training, my legs developed faster than my upper body did. So I did do a phase where I cut back on the training volume for my legs, but I would not recommend stopping legs or stopping glute training or anything like that. Just cut back. So for example, do maybe 2 upper body workouts for every 1 lower body workout. So for example, you could train legs once a week, train your upper body twice a week, right? That would be a good example of how to do that. At the least, maybe even train legs every 2 weeks, but don't stop legs entirely, because that's a mistake. If you stop training legs entirely, you're going to get weak. You're going to lose a lot of strength. And sometimes it's hard to regain that because it's not just the muscle, but it's the tendon, the ligament strength, the flexibility, the athletic performance. You're going to lose a lot of that if you stop training legs entirely, and you don't want that. You want to still maintain the strength in your legs and maintain some of the muscle you have while letting your upper body catch up. And so that's why you want to prioritize the upper body. As far as the anterior pelvic tilt, you can go to a physiotherapist and try and get them to analyze you and basically really customize an approach for you based on what they feel your areas of weakness are. But I'm going to give you kind of like a one-size-fits-all answer, and it's going to be a good one. And that is start practicing yoga. There's a lot of follow-along yoga video tutorials on YouTube. There's like the yoga niche on YouTube is huge, and they're full-on workouts. And I actually made a video talking about yoga for bodybuilders. If you want, you can go to my channel, just search Lee Hayward Yoga for Bodybuilders. And I talk about it, and I actually share one of the yoga channels that I was following along with and how it's impacted my training. But that's going to have a huge, huge impact, because what yoga is going to do is it's going to increase your flexibility, it's going to increase your mobility, and it's going to help to develop a lot of the weak links that you don't target with weight training. So a lot of the balance, the stabilizers, and the flexibility and the mobility. I mean, just by going through all the different yoga poses and the stretches and doing it on a regular basis, you will naturally correct a lot of these mobility issues that you probably have. It will help to correct your anterior pelvic tilt, especially a lot of the bending and the the downward dog and the upward dog and the holding the child's pose, and all these different poses will really help to strengthen and stretch those areas into improve the flexibility and the alignment and the mobility. There's so many benefits to it, but that's the quick and easy answer that I'm going to suggest for you. Start doing yoga. Now, at the same time, it wouldn't be a bad idea to go see a physiotherapist and as well to get their opinion on what you can do specifically in your situation, because everybody's a bit different. I can kind of give you some generic answers here, but it's nice to have that person, like have an expert to really analyze your situation and to diagnose some specific exercises and things that you can do for your own body type and your own issues. So that's what I'd recommend in that situation. Let us move on. We have Jose joining us. And he says, can you tell us something about shoulder packing and shoulder blade retraction? Not sure exactly what you mean by packing. Now, shoulder blade retraction, generally in the case, like if someone's going to set up for a bench press or something like that, it's more or less just shrugging your shoulder blades together. Like when you do shrugs, a lot of people think shrugs are shoulder shrugs, but you can shrug your shoulders forwards, you can shrug them backwards, and if you shrug them backwards, that's shoulder blade retraction right there. You can shrug them down, right? You can shrug them up. So there's all these different shrug movements that you can do, but generally, for a bench press, it's ideal to pull your shoulder blades back behind you, try and create tension throughout your shoulder blades, and that's going to give you a better base for doing exercises like bench presses, because when you do retract your shoulders, you place your body in a stronger position. Actually, it's a safer position for the shoulders, and it's also stronger as well. Shoulder packing, I'm not familiar with that term. I've never ever used it or referred to it, so I'd have to look it up to see exactly what you're referring to there. But as far as shoulder blade retraction, it's as simple as that. It's just retracting your shoulder blades back, expanding your chest outward, and again, that's going to help to activate your chest and place you in a stronger position for doing pressing exercises. All right. Let's see what else we got. All right, so we have Games 24/7 says, hi, Lee, I hit 300 kilograms. Okay, I'm not sure what he means by you hit that, unless that's 300 kilograms is a lot of weight. So I like, what did you hit it in? I mean, if it's a bench press, like that's elite level bench pressing. That's 660 pounds of whatever you hit. So I don't know. He didn't mention what exercise it was in, but all right, let's move on. Do you mind if I send you a video of me doing squats and see what you think? Okay, sure. If any of you have exercise video critiques that you would like, you can send them to me. You can email me, leeh@leehayward.com. Like if you have a YouTube channel yourself or whatever, you can upload, whether it's a public or an unlisted video, really doesn't matter, but just email me the link and I'll take it from there. Or if you want, you can, maybe upload it to like a Google Drive or Dropbox or something like that and share the link with me that way. Unless it's a really short clip, I prefer you to not actually email me the videos because that can get, that takes up a lot of space. But send me the link to it. I mean, a lot of my coaching students do that. If they have questions about exercise technique or whatever, they'll send me, the exercise that they're struggling with, whatever it is. Usually it's the big exercises, your squats and your deadlifts and your overhead presses and sometimes rows and whatever. But it's usually some more of the technical lifts that people send me, and I'll usually sometimes I'll just do write you an email back and say, hey, this is what you should work on, whatever. But if there's some obvious areas of where you could be improving. You know, I see some things that are like, that really needs to be worked on. I may make a video, and I've done that. If you go in and see some of my videos, like I have a deadlift critique video, I've got some squat critique videos in there. I did one outlining the Romanian versus stiff leg deadlift, and I took one of my coaching students and used him as an example. Like, put his video in there where he was doing the improper form, and I broke it down in slow motion, said, okay, this is where his form is breaking down. And then I made a separate video showing the proper form. So yeah, if you want to do that, you have some exercises you'd like some video critique on, by all means, send them my way, and I'll do my best to help you out. Okay, let's see what else we've got. All right, he says he actually has a video uploaded on his Facebook page. Okay, all right. Well, if you do, just send me the link to it, and I'll take it from there. Okay. Lee, when I was a lad, I ate 4 dozen eggs every morning to help me get large. Now that I'm grown, I eat 5 dozen, so I'm roughly this. What? 4 dozen eggs a day? I think he might be just pulling my leg, because I don't know of anybody, not even like a strongman competitors who are slamming down 10,000 calories are not eating 4 dozen eggs a day. So I think someone's just having a bit of fun there. Okay, Lee, is it worth me trying to compete in weightlifting, and how would I go about it if you think I'll be good enough? I don't know if you'll be good enough. I mean, when it comes to weightlifting, if you're referring to actual weightlifting, meaning Olympic weightlifting, I would recommend getting yourself a coach. And for that matter, if you're interested in competing in powerlifting, or you're interested in competing in bodybuilding, if you're interested in competing in anything like that, get yourself a coach who is familiar with that particular sport, and have them guide you, because trying to do it on your own is the slow and painful way to do it. You will make so many mistakes if you try and do it on your own. Get yourself a coach. That's what I would recommend. So if you're interested in weightlifting, find a coach. Could be someone in your local area, maybe at your gym or whatever. Go on Facebook, go online, find somebody who can coach you and teach you the proper technique, especially when it comes to lifting. With bodybuilding, you can get away with online coaches, but when it comes to lifting, meaning powerlifting, Olympic lifting, you really need that hands-on interactive coaching experience to really maximize your performance, because it's such a, there's so many little things that go into Olympic lifting and powerlifting that you really need that one-on-one coaching experience with somebody there in the gym guiding you. So that's what I'd recommend. I mean, and as far as are you good enough, anybody can compete, right? I mean, there's not like, a minimum weight limit. I mean, you'll see some people in there at all levels. You might have, someone's in there lifting 100 pounds and someone's lifting 500 pounds and everything in between. It's not like you have to have a certain criteria for a novice level competition, that is. Now, of course, as you work your way up the ranks, you have to qualify and everything else. But for a level 1 novice type competition, anybody can do it. So, I mean, it's just a matter of, finding a competition, finding a coach, training for it, and go for it, right? And I mean, that's how I got started with bodybuilding, right? I mean, I just found a local level competition that was open to novices, right? And did it, right? Simple as that. And when I did compete in powerlifting back in the day, I did get coaches. I mean, that was the best thing that I ever did. I like people who try and do it on their own. Again, that is the slow, painful way. And you're going to make so many rookie mistakes that if you just hired a coach, and even if it's only for a few months, it would make such a world of difference. Like, it'd be night and day difference, what you can get from a good coach versus trying to just piece it all together on your own. Again, it's the painful way to do something. All right, we got a question here from Anthony. Do you consider bodybuilding a true sport? A true sport. That's a different one, because a true sport it usually has some sort of athletic component to it. Who's the fastest? Who's the strongest? Who's whatever? You know, I mean, who scored the most goals? There's when you look at a sport, there's a performance athletic element to it. Now, in bodybuilding, there is performance and athletic, but it's not the competition. All the performance and the athletic point is done training for the competition. But once you get on that stage, it's more or less a beauty pageant for men, right? Or women. I mean, women can compete in bodybuilding as well, but it's just like who looks the best without their clothes on. That's it. You know, it's not who's the strongest. It's not who's the biggest. It's not who's the fastest. It's not who scored the most goals or anything like that. It's who looks the best with no clothes on for that particular category. You know, if you have bodybuilding, it's usually who looks the best in terms of mass, mass muscularity, and of course extreme definition. If it's in the physique categories, it's more of an aesthetic build. In the ladies competitions, if it's bikini, it's usually more of having an athletic but attractive body type. If it's figure, there's a bit more of the athletic side, and then of course if it's physique, it's more of the muscularity and the definition. But it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because it's like a beauty pageant versus a sport, right? And I mean, that's basically what it is. But the training in the gym, that's the sports side of it. That's what I consider if you're going to call them an athlete, it's the athletes because they're training in the gym like athletes. But the actual competition itself, it's kind of tricky if you'd ever call it a sport. And I think that's the reason why bodybuilding has never made it to the Olympics and probably never will, because it's not something that you can accurately measure, right? Like powerlifting, you lifted the weight or you didn't. Who lifted the most weight? Who, boom, that's the winner. In all the other sports, right? Who ran the fastest? Who scored the most? Who did this? But in bodybuilding, it's such a subjective thing. Again, beauty pageant, who looks the best, right? Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? That's why we had to have 9 judges on a bodybuilding judging panel. And, you could have varying opinions based on the judges, but they just take the scores and average them out in order to get the placing. So yeah, if it is considered a sport, it's definitely one of the weirder ones. And that's from someone who's competed in bodybuilding for over 20 years. I mean, I'll be first to admit it's a weird sport. Okay, what else we got? We got Natesha's joining us. We got Valley. We got Miss Video. Wayward Workers joining us. Renshi says, thoughts on the best trap exercises with bands or dumbbells to turn off scalene tightness? I might be mispronouncing that. Best trap exercises with bands or dumbbells. With bands, you can do a lot of good exercises with bands. Pull aparts, face pulls. In fact, if you go on my YouTube channel and do a search for Lee Hayward shoulder work, rubber band shoulder workout or something like that, I have a full shoulder exercise workout. And a lot of it focuses on rear delts and upper back and traps using band exercises. As far as dumbbells, I mean, dumbbell shrugs are great for traps. I actually like dumbbell shrugs better than barbell shrugs. Because first off, you have equal workload in each hand. You can hold the weights at your sides, and I find that you get a better range of motion with dumbbells versus a barbell. Now, I still use barbells as well, but it's one of those that I tend to prefer the dumbbells when it comes to shrugs. And there's a lot of different exercises you can do for the traps. Like bent over dumbbell flies. It's a great one for the rear delts, upper back. If you want, what I would suggest you do a search for Lee Hayward shoulder workouts, Lee Hayward rear delts, and you'll see some of those videos and exercises that I have. Because when I do a shoulder workout, I always include a lot of work for the rear delts, upper back, and traps. Excuse me, because that is like the neglected area for most people's shoulder workouts, and that's like the root cause for a lot of shoulder injuries And so that's, if you want to get some exercises for those, make sure to check out the workouts that I've posted up online now. All right, Nitish is joining us. How do you gain muscle and lose weight by eating 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight when intermittent fasting on a 16-8 protocol, 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating? How do you build muscle, lose weight? I mean, first off, intermittent fasting, there's nothing magical about intermittent fasting. I actually made a video about this today that I'm going to post up next week. But a lot of people think intermittent fasting is some like new fat loss trend or something like that. But intermittent fasting is as old as eating itself. Everybody is intermittent fasting. You watching this right now are intermittent fasting, whether you realize it or not. Because if you go to bed and you go several hours throughout the night without eating, and then you wake up in the morning and you eat breakfast, break fast, then you were intermittent fasting over the night and you just broke the fast with your breakfast the next morning. So everybody is intermittent fasting. There's nothing special or magical about it. Now, when we refer to an intermittent fasting diet, we usually are extending the fast beyond the normal breakfast, right? The normal thing that, if you're having your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, usually people are going to try and extend that out. So they're just going to delay their breakfast till later in the day to get more of a gap, more of a fasting gap. But the same principles of training, nutrition, and all that still apply if you're intermittent fasting, right? The only real benefit to intermittent fasting is it makes it easier to control your calories, because instead of eating multiple small meals a day, you're eating fewer bigger meals a day. So you're getting more eating satisfaction, and it's more time efficient, and it's generally easier to control your appetite to eat fewer meals than eat less calories per meal. And the reason for that is because when you eat, you stimulate your appetite. Every time you eat, you get this natural saliva and digestive enzymes, and the brain sends the signal to your belly. It starts to secrete insulin and all this kind of stuff. Boom, boom, boom. And every time you put food in your mouth, it just starts this chain reaction of your body getting ready to eat. And so you start the process, and this stimulates your appetite. Whereas if you don't eat, you intermittent fast, and you just space it out so you're eating fewer meals, you have less of those appetite spikes, less of those where you're triggering the whole eating and appetite stimulating process. So that's the advantage of it. It's just an easier way to eat fewer calories. And I'll just throw out an example. Like, let's say you were doing 6 small meals a day, and you want to keep your calories like 2,000 calories a day. Well, if you're eating 6 meals a day, you can only eat like a few hundred calories per meal. I mean, that's nothing. So a few hundred calories is boom. I mean, a few bites of food, boom, you got a few hundred calories. But it's enough to stimulate your appetite and make you hungry. But then you got to push yourself away from the table still feeling hungry. And that's the problem. Whereas if you were intermittent fasting, and let's say you're only eating 2 meals a day, well, you could have 2 1,000 calorie meals. And those 1,000 calorie meals are going to be big and satisfying meals where you actually leave the table feeling comfortably full, but you're still eating the same calories over the course of the day. So that's the advantage of it. But the same thing, I mean, the macros, the calories in versus calories out, all that stuff still applies regardless if you're eating multiple meals or you're eating, an intermittent fasting protocol where you're only eating 2 or 3 meals or even 1 meal a day. I mean, it still all applies. So, I mean, as far as, getting your protein, your veggies, if it fits your macros, all that kind of stuff, it still applies with intermittent fasting just as much as it does if you're eating multiple meals throughout the day. So try and eat the same type of foods, the same quality foods. It's just how you're splitting those foods up. That's the only difference. All right, let's see what else we got. Woodylos is saying, what are your thoughts on heavy duty versus volume training? Both of them work. Both have advantages and I guess you could say disadvantages, and both can be done in a complementary fashion. So first off, heavy duty is just another word for high intensity training. Mike Mentzer was the man who he created a training system back in the day called heavy duty, and it was all about this high intensity, low volume workouts, whereas high volume training is the typical Arnold Schwarzenegger 6 days a week, twice a day workouts, right? You know, you're doing a lot of volume, 20 sets per body part, 6 days a week, right? You know, really trying to just train the shit out of the body part with a lot of volume. Whereas the heavy duty, high intensity, you're typically doing like the 1 set to failure, right? Per exercise. So two totally opposing training styles, but there are pros and cons to both, right? The advantage of a heavy duty type of program is it's very time efficient, right? You're not spending hours in the gym 6 days a week, right? You're probably in there maybe 3 days a week, and it's a very fast and efficient workout. It's very intense, so you're pushing yourself hard during that workout, which on a drawback to that can increase your risk of injury, right? I mean, if you're training a set to failure and then beyond, which a lot of people do when they do high intensity, you increase your risk of injury, right? Anytime you push your limits, and then if you try and do like forced reps or negatives or cheating reps or whatever on top of that, it does increase the risk of injury, right? So that's one of the drawbacks. With volume training, some of the advantages of that is obviously you can do a greater variety of exercises. You know, you're burning more calories because you're simply training more. So again, it's not that one is better or worse. It's just like they're two differently opposing training styles. Personally, how I would like to structure my workouts and how I've done it in the past, and I often recommend this with coaching students, is let's start with one style of training. And usually what I'll do, this is a hack for you now. Like, if you hire a personal trainer or a coach or anybody, one of the things they're going to do is they're going to try and figure out what are you doing right now. So like, let's say you come to them and you say, I'm doing a high volume workout program. They're going to say, great, you're doing a high volume workout program. Well, guess what? For the next 6 weeks, we're going to do a high intensity, low volume workout program. They're going to flip the cards, you know, flip it around 180 and have you do the complete opposite. And the reason for that is because it's going to stimulate unique muscle stimulation. Because if you've been doing the same thing for weeks or months on end, your body has adapted to that type of training stimulation, and you're probably not going to be responding as well to it as you once did. I mean, you may still make progress with it. I'm not saying that your gains are going to stop entirely, but you're probably not making gains as fast as you once did. But if you totally change it around, so you go from doing high volume to high intensity, low volume, it just different training stimulation, all, you know, your body's going to respond to it just like you're starting something brand new. So you're going to get that initial growth spurt. Vice versa, if you've been doing high intensity, low volume, and then all of a sudden you start doing high volume, you're going to get that growth spurt because it's something totally unique and new to the body. But what's going to happen is your body's going to adapt to whatever training style that is, right? It's going to adapt, it's going to grow, and then eventually plateau. For those of you who are regulars to these video chats, you've heard me say this before. Every program goes through adapt, grow, plateau. Adapt, grow, plateau. So you switch up a program, you do something new. You're going to adapt to it, right? It's going to feel, whoa, this is a total shocker to the system. You're going to grow because you're providing that unique muscle stimulation. Again, you're making progress. But after a while, you're going to plateau. And once you do, that's your cue. Once you've hit that plateau and you're no longer making the gains, or sometimes you're even losing strength and you're even backtracking. Once that starts to happen, then you need to change up your approach again. And there's all kinds of different programs that you can follow for this. There's more than just high intensity and high volume. You can change up the exercises. You can change up the split. You can change up the reps. You can the tempo. There's so many variables that you can manipulate, but you need to change something in order to start that whole adapt, grow, plateau process all over again. And that's why with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle Coaching Club, we have the Workout of the Month program. I mean, it's each month it's a different style of training that complements the previous month. So I'm not going to have you do 2 high intensity programs back to back or 2 high volume programs back to back. We're going to change it up so that you get that unique muscle stimulation with each different program. So one month might be high volume. Next month might be high intensity. Next month might be some sort of conditioning type of program. Maybe something along the lines of like a CrossFit type program. Right? I mean, who knows? I mean, or maybe we're just going to change up the exercise and the tempo. Maybe we'll do time under tension instead of counting out traditional reps. We're going to just train for, X amount of time instead, and do, provide unique muscle stimulation that way. But whenever you change up your training modalities, you generally get your best gains within about 6 weeks after that. After that 6-week mark, things start to usually slow down. And that's when you kind of, you're approaching that plateau phase, and it's probably going to be soon time to change it up again. All right. So hopefully that answers that question. Let's see what else we got. Ross has got a question here saying, what's the best brand for them? I don't know if he's asking me, or what's the best brand for them. He says, I think he must mean protein powder. Okay, he says, what's the best brand, I'm assuming, for protein powder? He says he heard me recommend ON Gold. I think he means Optimum Nutrition Gold Standard. When you're answering your questions, try to make it easy for me to decipher what it is you're asking, just for future reference, because I might be off the base here, but I'm going to try and decipher what you've written now. So what's the best brand for protein powder? As you see, I bought some because it's the best. When it comes to protein powder, for the most part, any reputable brand is going to be pretty good, especially in I know in North America, protein powder, like any reputable brand will be fine, because the way it usually works is most of the brand out there are buying the same raw materials from the manufacturer, and they're simply packaging it up and labeling it as their own. Now, they may add in their own additives and flavors and whatever, but the raw material in terms of like the protein powder is the same stuff for a lot of different brands. There's only so many manufacturers of protein powder, and then all the different supplement companies buy it up and label it as their own. So generally speaking, one brand of protein is probably going to be on par with the next brand. Now, the flavorings and additives and stuff like that can make it more enjoyable. So what I would recommend, first off, read the label and try and get one that, is a good pure protein powder. Like some are weight gainers or meal replacements or whatever, and they have a lot of other gunk added in. Try and avoid that. Just get a pure protein powder. Don't go buying weight gainers, because they usually just got extra sugar and fat and crap added in there to bulk up the powder, but it's not quality calories. I mean, if you're supplementing with protein, you just want pure protein. So look for that when you're buying a protein powder. And then, of course, you want to get one that actually tastes good. I mean, if it tastes like crap and you have to force yourself to drink it, then it's not going to be enjoyable, and you're probably not going to use it like you should. But if it's something that you actually enjoy drinking and it mixes well and tastes pretty good, it's going to make the process a lot easier. And plus, you'll be able to use that protein then for other things. Like maybe you want to mix it in with blender smoothies, or make like high protein pancakes, or mix it in with oatmeal and have high protein oatmeal. And you can use it to actually make other foods tastier and actually bump up the protein content, right? I mean, there's a lot of things you can use protein for. I mean, I sometimes mix up protein powder and Greek yogurt, and it's almost like a nice high protein pudding. Protein powder and oatmeal, protein powder with a pancake recipe. You can make high protein muffins. I mean, there's a lot of things you can use protein powder for, and it's just makes it so much easier to meet your protein requirements that way. Now, the only time you really have to be careful with protein powder is, I know I've never experienced this myself, but I've talked to people who've dealt with it, is in certain parts of the world, particularly like maybe throughout the Middle East and stuff, where supplements are not as readily available, and throughout Asia and countries like that, sometimes you get knockoffs, right? And they actually look legit, but it's totally fake, and you don't know what the heck you're getting in some of these fake protein powders. So again, North America, I've never heard of anybody getting fake protein powder in North America. I mean, I've been at this a long time. I've never heard of like a supplement store getting busted because they were selling a fake protein powder or something like that. It doesn't happen, because they're so readily available, and it's just not worth it. But again, throughout the Middle East and throughout Asia and some of these countries where knocking off products and making, copycats and fakes is more common and popular, it's gone over into the supplement industry as well. So sometimes you can get fake protein powders. I've never dealt with it, and I'm not the man to ask on how to do it. I mean, there are videos out there on YouTube. If you search for it, like how to identify a fake protein powder or something like that, I've seen videos out there where people are breaking it down and stuff like that. But that's the only thing you'd really have to be careful of when it comes to protein and supplements. If you're getting a fake, if you're getting a legit supplement company, for the most part, it's going to be pretty darn close to whatever the label says. It's you're getting pretty darn close. There may be some variations here and there. I mean, that's, normal, because sometimes when you get a batch of, different batches may vary slightly, but it's pretty darn close, right? So you're really not getting ahead with one brand versus another, unless, of course, it's a fake one, which is something that's a different can of worms entirely. All right, let's move on. See what else we can bang out in terms of questions before we clue up our video chat today. Jesse's asking, when doing the JM press, is it more of a power move, or is it better to use lighter weight and focus on the movement? I would say start with the lighter weight, focus on the movement, and as you get comfortable, then gradually increase the weight, and you can make it I'm not going to say a power move, but a moderate weight move. Like, I would never do like a 1 rep max JM press, right? There's really no point to that. But you can do heavy sets of 5, something like in that range, 5 to 6 reps for heavy weight, but only after you've mastered the technique, you're really comfortable with the exercise, and you can take it from there. Now, for those of you who are watching this right now and you're like, what the heck is a JM press? I have a video on YouTube. If you type in Lee Hayward JM press, you'll find it. But it's a hybrid exercise between kind of like a lying tricep extension and a close grip bench press. It's kind of a hybrid exercise, and it was invented by a powerlifter named J.M. Blakely, back in the day. This is a, relatively old exercise. It's been around for a while, but it's common in powerlifting as a bench press assistant exercise, and it's a good one for building up the triceps and building up lockout strength with the bench press. So if you want, just do a search for Lee Hayward JM press. It's actually quite a popular video. It's got a lot of views, that one does, and I go into detail and explain the exercise. But I wouldn't do it for anything less than 5 reps personally. I mean, I know some people may use it for lower reps, but I think keeping it at 5 reps or higher would be ideal for most people. Okay, we have Focus3. I can't even pronounce your username, but anyway, the question is Focus3 Naj Street. I'm sure I'm butchering the shit out of these names, right? Anyway, is it safe to lift if you have scoliosis? What I would recommend, if you do have it, go talk to your doctor, talk to a physiotherapist, and get a real, get someone to assess your situation and give you some real world feedback based on your individual situation. But with that being said, there are people out there with scoliosis who are lifting. Yes, you can still lift with it. And very often lifting, it will help with it because you're strengthening all the muscles of your back. You're helping to strengthen and align things better. I mean, when it comes to any issue that you have, any injuries or issues or whatever, doing nothing isn't helping anything. So like some people say, well, I have XYZ issue, so I'm not going to work out, right? I've got a bad knee, so I'm not going to work out. Or I've got a bad back, so I'm not going to work out. I have scoliosis, so I'm not going to work out. Doing nothing isn't helping anything, right? Exercise, moving, strengthening your body, strengthening it, stretching it, increasing your mobility. That's what's going to help to build up your body. So is it safe to lift? Yes. And it's actually beneficial to lift. I mean, you'll be much better off lifting than doing nothing, right? I mean, doing nothing, you're just going to atrophy and get worse and worse. But at least if you're lifting, you can build up the strength and stability throughout your body and actually get better. So yes, you want to lift, but you want to do it smart, right? You don't push beyond your limits. And of course, you want to be careful when you're doing exercises. I mean, if you don't have you have a curvature in your spine, then, I mean, obviously don't go doing crazy heavy squats or heavy, standing calf raises or anything with an excessive amount of weight on your back. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't put weight on your back, but be smart about it and start off light and progress gradually and work within your pain threshold and build your body up slowly and progressively over time. But yeah, you can still lift and make progress regardless of whatever issues you're dealing with. All right, let's move on. We got another question here. Lee, if I'm trying to get big and muscular, is it necessary for me to do pull-ups and chin-ups because I can do about 3 in a row, whereas since practicing push-ups, I can do 20 in a row? I mean, is it absolutely necessary? Probably not. Is it good? Yeah, it's good. I mean, pull-ups, chin-ups are a phenomenal back exercise, right? I mean, if you get good at doing pull-ups and chin-ups, you're going to get a big muscular back. What I would recommend, I mean, just work on them. I mean, your strength will improve as you get stronger, right? So, I mean, it's a hard exercise for people who are new to working out. You probably can't even do one, right? I mean, it's one of the most advanced exercises. Like the average person that you will see on the street, or even for that matter, the average person you see in the gym, probably doesn't have the strength to do a proper pull-up or a proper chin-up. So if you build up to the point where you have the strength to do those exercises, yeah, it's going to carry over into increasing your muscle mass and your strength, especially in your back, your biceps, and your grip, and all those pulling muscles. So now, if you can't do it, you have a couple options. One, start off with lat pull downs. I mean, that's going to work the same muscles, but it's not as an intense of an exercise. Anytime you move your entire body through space, meaning, like with a pull-up versus a pull-down. With a pull-up, you're moving your entire body. With a pull-down, you're just moving your limbs. Another example, if you take like a squat or a leg press. I mean, both of them, you're moving your legs, but with a squat, you're moving your entire body. With the leg press, you're just moving your legs. Anytime you do an exercise where you're moving your entire body, there's a higher level of neuromuscular activation happening. So that makes the exercise not only more demanding, but it makes it more productive. That's why you feel a greater level of fatigue if you do a set of squats to failure versus if you do a set of leg press to failure. You'll get a greater level of fatigue if you do pull-ups to failure versus pull-downs to failure. So if you can do body weight exercises or exercises where you're moving your entire body through space, definitely do them because they're very productive in terms of building muscle. But of course, you have to be strong enough to lift your entire body weight. So if needed, you can do like assisted pull-ups. A lot of gyms these days have these assisted pull-up machines where you can stand on a stand or kneel on something that's going to cut your body weight down. That's very common. Another one is maybe you can attach a resistance band to the pull-up bar and loop your knee or your foot to it, and that'll help to do assisted pull-ups. In fact, I have a YouTube video called, if you just type in Lee Hayward pull-ups for beginners, you'll find it. And it explains how a beginner can get better at doing pull-ups. So start with that. Start with that video first and work on those exercises. And just rest assured that if you keep consistent, you're going to get stronger with them. And of course, that strength is going to carry over into more muscle as well. Okie dokie. Let's see what else. Question there about anterior pelvic tilt. We already covered that. The recommendation was yoga. What else we got here? How do you get rid of shoulder pain in the right shoulder when doing pullovers? If this is a new pain that you're getting, you may have pulled or strained something in your shoulder. I mean, a pullover is a very extreme stretching exercise, right? You're very extreme. When you pull over, it places a lot of stress. If it's something new, you may have pulled or strained, overstretched your tendons, joints, ligaments, whatever in the shoulders. So you might want to just lay off that exercise. But in the meantime, you can definitely do some shoulder warm-up and rehab exercises, and I've got a lot of videos covering that. Just one that I did recently, or not recently, but more recently, I should say, within the last few months, was a rotator cuff warm-up. And if you just do search Lee Hayward rotator cuff, you'll see all the videos that I have. Usually when I show a shoulder mobility or warm-up video, it might have like rotator cuff in there, because that's usually one of the main trouble spots for a lot of people when it comes to shoulder mobility. So if you do a search for Lee Hayward rotator cuff, you'll see all the videos that I have covering exercises for those. But bottom line, if any exercise is causing you pain or discomfort, don't do that exercise and find another variation instead. I mean, you may be able to go back to doing that exercise at a later date, but for the time being, don't do it. Because again, you may have pulled or strained, or something is just not right with that particular movement. So find another variation instead. And there's a lot of different exercises. I mean, yes, pullovers are a great exercise, but you don't have to do them. I mean, it's not like a must-do exercise by any stretch, right? You can still work all your major muscle groups and stimulate hypertrophy and make gains without doing pullovers. Okay, let's see what else we've got. Don is joining us. What would be your recommendations for a 42-year-old with high blood pressure that wants to bulk up? Ooh, first off, I'd want to know more about your situation, like, you know, your diet, your lifestyle, what's causing that blood pressure, where are you now in terms of your overall body weight? Is it that you truly want to bulk up, or do you just want to build muscle, like build muscle and lose fat? Because a common issue that I hear from a lot of people, especially guys who are 40 plus, and this is kind of an area that I'm very passionate about because I'm 40 plus. This is me, right? I mean, when I was younger, you know, skinny teen trying to bulk up, that was, you know, my passion, because I related to the skinny teens and I was one of them. As I got a bit older, you know, and was competing in bodybuilding, that was my passion, because I was right in the thick of it then, you know, on the competition scene. Now that I'm older, 40 plus, you know, approaching that second half of life, I can relate to the challenges and the issues that a lot of 40 plus year olds are dealing with. So that's why a lot of times, excuse me, I'll focus on workouts for men over 40 or nutrition for men over 40, because that's the area that I'm really trying to focus on myself, and I can relate to guys who are going through this. So in your situation, Don, I'd want to know first off, like, most guys who are 40 plus, when I'm talking to them, they want to build muscle, usually in the chest, arms, shoulders, you know, build up their upper body, but at the same time, they want to lose that gut. So it's not necessarily bulk up, right? Bulk up usually means you're just trying to gain weight, right? Like the skinny 98-pound weakling who's sick and tired of being skinny and getting sand kicked in his face at the beach, who wants to bulk up, right? That's who wants to bulk up. But unless you're that extreme skinny kid, right, who is underweight, bulking up is usually a mistake, because bulking up usually just means getting fat, right? That's usually what happens, because the amount of muscle that you build in comparison to fat is usually not in your favor, especially as you get older. So I personally don't bulk up anymore. I haven't for years. I mean, and I wouldn't recommend it for most people. If anything, I recommend body recomposition, where you're trying to build muscle and burn body fat simultaneously, not simply bulk up, because bulk up usually, except in extreme cases, it usually doesn't lead to a positive result. It usually makes you physically worse, right? You're going to, yes, you may gain strength, right? But you're going to get fat in the process, and it's probably going to have a negative impact on your blood pressure, your cholesterol, and all that kind of stuff. Because the more weight you have on your body, it's the more stress that's placing on all those things. So I think, again, I really don't know your situation. We'd have to have a chat about this. And if you want, if you're watching this, Don, send me an email, all right? leeh@leehayward.com. Just drop me an email, and we'll have a chat about this. I mean, more than happy, you know, to discuss your situation, and I'll give you some suggestions, and we can brainstorm some strategies that will help you to reach these goals. But I would strongly advise against the typical bulk up program, except for people who are truly skinny, underweight, and need to pack on size. All right, let's move on. We have Frederick joining us. Trap bar deadlifts versus deadlifts with a barbell. What is the difference? A trap bar is, for those of you who don't know, one of these hexagon-shaped bars, and you actually stand in the middle of it and do your deadlifts in the middle of it. And the benefit is because where you're in the middle, the weight is centered on So instead of doing a deadlift with a barbell and the weight's in front, with a trap bar, the weight is centered. And because of that, it changes the center of gravity and it changes the way the muscles get activated. There's less stress on the lower back with a trap bar versus a barbell. So if you have any back issues, the trap bar would be advantageous. It also places more emphasis on the legs. You're going to feel more in the quadriceps because you're in that more upright position. If you're doing a barbell deadlift, you're pulling the barbell back, whereas if you're doing a trap bar deadlift, you're kind of almost like squatting the weight up because of the body mechanics. Like you're holding the weight at arm's length, but it's more in line with a squat move than a deadlift move. Now, again, there's carryover with both, but you have to try them and see. But you'll find you'll feel less back and more legs with the trap bar. You're going to feel more back and less legs with a barbell. As far as benefits, both have benefits, right? I mean, in my case, I like to cycle them back and forth. So like I might go through a training phase of doing trap bar deadlifts just for a change. And then I might go through a training phase of doing barbell deadlifts, right? At the gym that we train at, we have both. So, I mean, I have that luxury of doing both. But unless you have a specific issue, you can alternate them back and forth, right? But of course, if you do have a back issue, I'd recommend the trap bar versus the barbell. All right, let's see what else we've got. Steve is joining us. How do you calculate a starting weight when working out? For how many reps, how many sets? Would you lift close to failure on the last rep of the first set or the last rep of, say, this third set? All right, good question. All right, when you start working out, all right, how to calculate a starting weight when working out. So I'm assuming, based on this question, Steve, you're probably new to weight training. So the simple answer is you go light. Very light. Ridiculously light. Like empty barbell light. Like 20 pounds on the weight stack light. Like light. Just take very little weight and just go through the motions. Learn how to do the exercise with proper form. Like, don't worry about repping to failure or any of that crap. Just learn how to do the exercise with proper form. You know, keep your reps somewhere around 10 to 15 repetitions per set and just learn the exercise. You know, maybe do three to four sets of an exercise, 10 to 15 reps, go through the motions. Don't even worry about how much weight you're lifting or training to failure. None of that stuff even matters at the beginning phase. You're just laying the foundation. Once you've done that, then you can gradually start adding weight. So if you're going through the motions and you just said, this is really light, I'm not getting no muscle stimulation out of it, well, increase the weight a little bit, right? You know, if you've got 20 pounds on the weight stack, well, put it up to 30 pounds and see how that feels, right? You know, maybe if that feels really light, then go up to 40 pounds, see how that feels, right? And just keep going up ever so small. If you're using the barbell, depending on the exercise, I mean, usually the smaller the exercise, the smaller your weight increments are going to be. The bigger the exercise, the bigger your weight increments will be. You know, there's a big difference between like deadlifting 100 pounds and dumbbell curling 10 pounds, right? You know, it's a big difference percentage-wise in terms of the weight and stuff. So just keep that in mind. For the smaller isolation exercises, you're not going to be able to progress as fast as you will with the bigger compound exercises. So you like, for example, with your bench, squat, and deadlift, you may be able to have 5 pounds per week for several weeks in a row. But with dumbbell curls and side lateral raises and things like that, you may get stuck at a plateau and have to keep the same weight for a while because it's such a small exercise. Again, like I mentioned, if you're taking a beginner who's deadlifting 100 pounds for 10 reps and doing a dumbbell curl for 10 pounds for 10 reps, think of adding 5 pounds, right? 5 pounds to a 100-pound deadlift is only 5%, whereas 5 pounds to a 10-pound dumbbell curl is 50%, right? So, you know, percentage-wise, is a huge difference. So you're not going to be able to add as much weight to your isolation exercises. But there's no magic formula for this. It's just start off ridiculously light. Like, you should not feel any strain or struggle or anything like that when you're starting off. Just learn to do the exercise with proper form, proper mechanics, and then increase the weight. So like do your first set, right? If that feels good, increase the weight a little bit, do another set. If that feels good, increase the weight, do another set. If it gets to the point where, okay, you're starting to work hard, keep that weight. Keep that weight for your next workout, and only increase it when it gets to the point where it's feeling easy. This whole idea of repping out to failure and all that, that's advanced stuff. That's after you've been going to the gym for several months or even a year or so. Like for a beginner who's just starting out, repping out to failure is like the worst thing you can do, because all you're doing is you're placing excess strain and stress on your body that you don't need. I mean, it's just going to cause your muscles to break down faster, and it's going to slow down your recovery. Just going through the motions at the start is going to be intense enough for a beginner. You know, you'll probably get sore just going through the motions. Like you take someone who's never squatted before and just have them do, you know, some body weight squats, right? No weight whatsoever, just their body weight, and have do, you know, maybe 3 sets of 10 body weight squats. Chances are their legs will be sore the next day because they've never done it before, right? It's unique muscle stimulation. So you don't need to try and kill yourself right off the bat with too much too soon. Build up the intensity, build up the weight and everything else gradually over time, and just listen to your body, right? If once you get to the point where you know this is really light and you can handle more, then increase the weight and handle more. But at the same time, be conservative, right? Don't try and lift too much too soon, because if you do that, you're going to risk an injury. And there's nothing that will slow your progress down more than getting injured. Right? I mean, if you stop a set short of failure and you don't push yourself as hard as you physically could, in the greater scheme of things, that's not hindering your progress. You know, if you miss a workout, that's not hindering your progress, because you can always go to the gym again the next day, right? You know, I mean, in the greater scheme of things, it's not going to hinder your progress. But if you go in there and do too much too soon, like let's just say you're doing deadlifts and you get overzealous and you put on way too much weight and you throw your back out. Well, that's going to screw up your progress, because now you're going to be laid up with bad back, or maybe, you know, potential muscle tears or anything, and you may not be able to move for several weeks. So if you get injured, that's going to screw everything up. So you need to avoid injury at all costs. It's like the most important thing, right? So that's what I focus on. I mean, I always drive this home. Injury prevention is the most important thing, right? There's lots of time to increase the weight. There's lots of time to push yourself with more intensity, more volume, more sets, more reps, whatever. Just take it slow and enjoy the journey. Okay, let's move on. We got another question here. This one's from Neil. It says he's looking for some advice on the best leg workout. He's 47 years old, looking for some help to get more definition. All right. First off, in order to get more definition, you need to lose body fat, right? That's hands down. So again, I don't know what your current weight, body fat situation is, but the leaner you get, the more definition you're going to get, regardless of your weight training. So, I mean, if you want the shortcut answer to this, get lean, right? The thinner your skin, the leaner it is, the more definition, because you're going to be able to see that muscle detail underneath the skin. If you got a layer of body fat there, then it doesn't matter how many leg exercises you do or whatever, because it's all going to be blurred by that layer of body fat. So you got to get lean first. So that's diet and cardio primarily in order to lose the body fat. But some exercises that are really good. I mean, obviously the big basic compound lifts, you know, squats and leg presses and deadlifts and like Romanian deadlifts and things like that are really good for adding mass to the legs. Lunges, another great one as well. But I find getting into some of the isolation work. So I like to usually do the big compound stuff and then get into the isolation work afterwards. And I find the addition of that isolation work, like leg extensions and leg curls, can really help to, you know, put the icing on the cake in terms of definition, right? I mean, I find myself that it really does help. And most competitive bodybuilders will get into doing isolation exercises like that. And it usually does help to add to the whole process. So step one, get your body fat low. Step two, focus on building mass with those compound exercises, and then finish off your workouts with the isolation work at the end. And that's usually the best strategy for the overall lean muscular look that you're trying to get. And again, if you have any questions, you want us, more specifics or to brainstorm some strategies about this, shoot me an email, and I'll be more than happy to discuss this with you offline. Okay. What's the best way to deload? This one is, again, I can't pronounce your name, but the question is the best way to deload. Simple answer. What I usually do when I need to take a deload phase is I go back to just a basic beginner 3-day per week total body workout. Now, all a deload means is you're going to back off the intensity, back off the volume, and allow your body to recover. Active recovery. That's what a deload is. So if you've been pushing really hard in the gym, like you've been training consistently, lifting heavier weights, really pushing your limits, and you get to the point of borderline overtraining where you're kind of like overreaching, okay? Like if we're going to look at overtraining, like very few people technically get into overtraining. You have to be extreme for a long period of time to truly get into what's known as overtraining. But what a lot of people do is they get into what's known as overreaching, where you're borderline overtraining, right? You're not quite there yet, but you're starting to feel a bit burnt out. When you get to that phase, you're starting to feel a bit burnt out, and you can take a deload. And all a deload means is you're just going to scale things back. Now, you could do the exact same workout you were doing all along, but just maybe cut the sets in half. Or you're purposely just going to reduce the weight. So instead of, maybe you're going to take 75% of the weights that you were lifting. And, you're going to do the exact same workout, same set, same reps, but just with less weight. Or you might just, like say, do less sets. But personally, what I like to do is I usually use this as an opportunity to just change up my program. And I kind of go back to a basic beginner total body workout. And very often I'll even use primarily machine exercises because machines are generally not as stressful on your body as free weights. So on my main YouTube channel, there's a beginner's total body workout. I recommend it for most people who are brand new to starting off. So it's a total body workout using primarily machine exercises, and we're doing an exercise for each major movement pattern. So there's overhead pull, overhead press, horizontal pull, leg press, arm curl, arm extension, some work for the core. It's just a one major movement pattern, one major exercise for each movement pattern using machine exercises. You just do, 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps for each exercise. Very simple. And I usually do that 3 days a week. So it's kind of like a fun, easy, non-stressful workout, and that's the way that I like to deload. So I'll go in there and maybe do that for a week if I feel that I'm borderline overtraining and I need to kind of just scale things back. So I'll do that for a week to kind of have that active recovery, and then I'll probably go back to a more intense, program where I'm using more free weights and pushing myself, and actually striving for growth rather than just trying to stay active. So again, there's a lot of ways to go about it, but bottom line, it's just you're physically doing less, but you're still keeping active, right? Like you don't want to just stop working out entirely. You still want to have the benefits of regular exercise, but you don't want to be burning yourself out and stressing yourself in the process. So that's all a deload is. All right, what's the best brand for creatine and glutamine? Honestly, these supplements, it really doesn't matter. I would get a pure creatine monohydrate and get a pure glutamine powder. The brands, it really doesn't matter. I mean, sometimes you can just get a generic brand. There's companies online that just sell the generic ones. I know one company here in Canada, it's called Canadian Protein, I believe it is. And you can buy like just pure protein, pure creatine, pure amino acids, pure whatever. I mean, I sometimes get stuff through those guys, but it really doesn't matter. As far as creatine, if you want to kind of get the best bang for your buck, or the best quality, I should say, it's not necessarily the best bang for your buck, but the best quality, is probably a little bit more expensive, but get Creapure creatine. Creapure is German-made creatine, and it's typically a higher grade of creatine. Some of the cheaper, lower grades of creatine come from China, and I'm not saying that it won't work, but it's probably not the same purity or the same quality as the Creapure. Creapure is kind of like the gold standard of creatine, so that's the one that I would look for there. in terms of the best creatine, and just a pure monohydrate, right? You don't need to worry about all the different fancy smancy, crealkalins or liquid creatines and God knows what other kind of creatines are on the market. I mean, what made creatine popular was creatine monohydrate. Like virtually all the studies on creatine were done on creatine monohydrate, and it worked. That's why creatine's so popular, right? Because it's been proven to work. And guess what? Creatine monohydrate worked 20 or 30 years ago, and it still works just as well today. And it's like cheaper now than ever. I mean, I remember the first time I ever bought creatine back in 1995. I got a 100-gram container, and I mean, this thing was small. It was like a little pill bottle size. Like 100 grams is nothing. And I paid almost $100 for that back in 95. So, I mean, you factor in the cost of inflation and everything else. Like, it was expensive as heck. It was like almost $100 for this little rinky-dink bottle of creatine. And now you're getting 1,000 grams for like $30. You're getting like 10 times more for like a third the price. I mean, it's just like, it's crazy. It's cheap. But back in the day when creatine first came out, it was expensive. But it still works. I mean, it was the same stuff. I mean, it worked back then. It still works today. So, I mean, just creatine monohydrate is all you really need. And as far as, people think, well, loading and how to take it and what's the best time and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because creatine is one of these things. You just need to have an adequate supply in your system. And as long as you keep an adequate supply in your system, it's going to work. It's not like a stimulant like caffeine, for example. Like caffeine, you have to time it properly in order for it to work. Because, I mean, like, if you want to take caffeine before you go to the gym to get that stimulant effect, you don't want to take caffeine before you try and go to bed because you'll be up all night. Creatine doesn't work like that. Creatine, it really doesn't matter when you take it as long as you take it, because it's just going to build up the creatine reserves in your body. So as long as you have adequate creatine reserves, it's going to work. So you could take it morning, noon, or night, pre-workout, post-workout, on the days that you don't work out. Again, it really doesn't matter as long as you take it consistently. It's kind of like vitamins in that sense. Like, it doesn't matter when you take your multivitamin, if you take it morning, noon, or night, or pre or post-workout or whatever. As long as you're taking it consistently and you have adequate vitamins in your system, that's all that matters. And creatine's the same way. There's no magical timing for creatine that's going to make it work better or worse than another time. So usually I take it in the morning when I'm taking my vitamins, right? Just like I take my vitamins, I'll take a spoonful of creatine powder, and I don't even mix it up with anything. I just put the powder in my mouth and chase it down with a mouthful of water. Boom. Simple as that. I mean, I don't worry about none of these fancy creatine drinks or concoctions. I just chase the powder down, and it's quick, simple. Boom, gets the job done. All right, let's see what else we've got. Randy is joining us. He says he had 6 hernia operations and he works out every week. Holy shit, man. I mean, I'm not proud that you had 6 hernia operations, but I'm proud that you keep at it. So I think he must be replying to one of the questions that I mentioned earlier, where I was saying how you need to keep consistent with your workouts regardless of your situation. So again, kudos to you, Randy. Okay. All right, question here. This one, Lee, you recommended the advanced workout on your app for me. Since I finished my last program, it's going well, apart from pullovers. But should I add any shoulder exercises to it? Okay, this is the same gentleman who had the question about pullovers causing shoulder problems. Just don't do the pullovers. Simple as that. I mean, the pullover is not like a major exercise, right? If you can take it or leave it. So if it's causing you shoulder problems, just don't do it. Simple as that. It's not really going to have a major impact on the quality of the workout program. So if pullovers are hurting your shoulders, just don't do them, or at least take 2 or 3 weeks off them, and then maybe in 2 or 3 weeks time you could try some really light pullovers, maybe with just like an empty barbell or really light dumbbell, and see how it feels. Because Sometimes you might have just overstrained or overstretched something, and you just need to give it some time to rest and recover, but you'll probably be able to do it in a few weeks' time. So again, don't worry about trying to substitute another exercise, because it's really not that big of a deal. All right, next question. How would you structure your workouts during the week with a physically demanding job? I'm really struggling. All right. I actually was having a conversation with one of my coaching students today about this. His name is Dexter, and he's got the most ridiculous schedule that I've ever seen. He starts his day at 1:30 a.m. He wakes up at 1:30 a.m. I'm more likely to go to bed at 1:30 a.m. than wake up at 1:30 a.m. He has to be at work by 5. He's got like an hour commute to work, and of course an hour commute back home, and blah, blah, blah. But he's trying to cram in a workout with that kind of ridiculous schedule, right? You know, like, so I understand how it can be a challenge, and there's really no right or wrong answer here, or one size fits all answer is what I'm trying to say, because it depends on you, your situation, your schedule. I mean, it's really a challenge. So I'm going to throw out some ideas, and hopefully some of these will resonate with you. And one is, if you have the option, do your workout early in the morning and get it done and out of the way first thing before you get busy with the rest of the day and with your job. If you have that option, do it. Now, I know that may not always be an option, because if you have to start your day like really early, then obviously you won't have time to get to the gym and work out really early. But if you can, do that. I find people who work out first thing in the morning generally are more consistent over the long term, because just think of it. If every day you wake up and your first task of the day is to get to the gym and work out, then once that's done, then the rest of your day can't screw up your workout, right? You've got it done. It's in the bank. Boom, right? Then no matter what life throws at you for the rest of that day, you've got your workout done, right? That's done. That's solid, right? Whereas if you worked out later in the day, then you get busy with work, you get, errands and family responsibilities, and all this other stuff gets thrown on your plate. It's easier to blow off your workout if you work out later in the day versus if you do it first thing in the morning. So if you have that option, that's one suggestion. Another thing that you can look into as well is, in your case, you say a physically demanding job. Again, I don't know exactly what you do, but chances are with a physically demanding job, you're getting a lot of physical activity where you're burning calories throughout the day. So you probably don't need to do extra cardio. So you can focus primarily on just the strength training point of view. And this was going to cut down on your exercise time significantly, because someone who sits at a desk all day and leads a very sedentary lifestyle, you need to do that cardio just to get your basic physical activity that you need, because strength training alone is probably not going to cut it for someone who sits on their ass all day tapping on a keyboard like me. Right? So I need to do cardio, right? I need to do cardio and weight training in order to get my overall activity level in a good, healthy range. But for someone who's physically demanding on their job, whatever that job may be, you don't need to do the cardio. So scrap the cardio and just focus on 3 weight training workouts per week. Focus on that. The bare essentials of what you need. So that's another strategy. If you have the weekends off, like let's say you work Monday to Friday, and you have Saturday, Sunday off, another thing that you might want to do is do 2 workouts, like Saturday workout, Sunday workout, then on Wednesday do a workout. So during your working week, you only have to squeeze in 1 weight training workout midweek, and then do your other workouts on your off days from your job. That's another strategy that may work as well. And again, if you get in 3 good weight training workouts a week, that's all you really need to make progress, right? I mean, you can break it up however you want. I mean, it could be a total body workout. It could be upper lower body split. It could be push-pull legs, whatever. But you can make some darn good progress if you are consistent with 3 good workouts a week. So again, those are a few things that I recommend, but your situation may be totally different and unique. Like I was mentioning earlier with one of my coaching students, Dexter. I mean, he's got a tough schedule, and we're trying to tweak things and work around it for him. But I mean, it's tough, and I mean, I can appreciate it. But bottom line, if there's a will, there's a way, right? If you want to do this, there's a way to work around it and make it happen. So if you would like to chat about it and brainstorm some ideas, again, shoot me an email and we can discuss this offline. Someone's saying, where can I get a 3-foot high mic like that? This mic is not 3 foot high. It's just sitting on my desk. Like, look at it. That's it. It's just a Yeti mic. It's a good mic, and for what it is, it's a good quality microphone for not that expensive. I don't know how much it was, maybe less than a couple $100. Again, I don't know exactly how much it was, but yeah, and it's not 3 feet high, even though it probably looks that way on video. It's just sitting on my desk. All right, what else we got? How are we doing for time? We only got a few more questions, so I'm going to answer these questions before I clue it up. All right, Mike is joining us. Oh, that's right. Mike was asking about the mic. How ironic. Nitesh is joining us. Says MoveStrong DSL has an open trap bar, which is more functional than a traditional hex trap bar. Bought one. It's great. Okay, cool. I'm not familiar with that particular one, but I know there are different trap bars available. I used one back in February when I was down in Florida training at the Critical Bench compound. They had a trap. I actually made it on one of my videos. If you go back to the videos that I shot in February, just scroll back through my old videos. I did some Critical Bench compound ones. If you just search Lee Hayward Critical Bench, you'll find it. But they had a cool trap bar. I can't remember the brand of it, but it had these rotating handles. So you could have a regular handle, you could have a medium thick handle, or you could have a really thick handle. And if you've ever done any thick bar training, you know that the thicker the handle changes the exercise entirely. Like if you use fat grips or a thick handle barbell or thick handle dumbbell, it makes the exercise so much harder, because when you have a thicker grip, it just activates the muscles totally different. I mean, you don't feel as strong or connected, and thus you have to work harder in order to complete the exercise. So they had that down at the Critical Bench compound. This one, it was 3 different handles that you could just rotate through, and it was really cool. But again, I can't remember the brand name of it, but yeah, trap bar deadlifts, definitely. It's one of those. It's a nice exercise. It's not a must-have exercise, but if you have access to it, it's definitely a nice one. All right, so Steve is joining us, or Steve is thanking me. I answered his question earlier. Says, thanks, Lee. Great advice. Yeah, thanks. Cheers, Lee. Okay, you're welcome, guys. Always glad to help. Okay, what other questions? Ralph is joining us. Ozan's joining us. Darren is joining us. Oh, Ross is asking, where can you get the shirt? I have I think it's Spreadshirt shop that you can order these t-shirts from. Go to my website, leehayward.com, and in the side menu bar, there is a link there where you can order t-shirts. And this is one of the t-shirts that I offer. I also have some different ones. There's some hoodies there. I think there's track pants and shorts as well. But yeah, you can get this on my website, just leehayward.com. Lee, what snacks are the best for high carb content? That's easy. Most snacks are high in carbs. It's easy to get that. If you're looking for a healthy high carb snack, fruit is one of the best ones. I would recommend that, because with fruit, you're getting something natural. It's unprocessed. It's got vitamins and minerals and fiber and all that goodness that you need. I would recommend avoiding the processed snack foods like crackers and breads and whatever, all that kind of processed stuff. try and keep your diet to as natural, unprocessed as possible. So if you're looking for good, high quality carbohydrates, as like a snack type thing, something that's really quick and convenient, you can't go wrong with fruit, like apples, bananas, oranges, berries, that kind of stuff. Great. Oatmeal, another really good high carb food. It's natural, unprocessed food. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, stuff like that. Simple, natural, unprocessed foods. That's what you want to focus on. Avoid the processed junk, right? That's where a lot of people get really caught up. And I'm even going to throw in protein bars in with this as well. Like, a lot of people think protein and meal replacement bars are healthy because they have protein in them. But for the most part, all they are is a candy bar with a scoop of protein added in. I mean, it still has, it still has pretty much the same nutritional information as a candy bar, high in sugar, high in fat, processed. The only difference is it's got some whey protein or soy protein or something, some form of protein thrown in with it. So I'm not saying that you have to avoid them entirely, but don't think of a protein bar as a healthy food, because it's not. It's still, it's still a chocolate bar, right? It's still in that same category. It's just, you're getting a bit of protein with your chocolate bar, right? If you had a typical chocolate bar or candy bar with a protein shake, you're getting the same nutritional value as you would with a protein bar. So you're still getting the junk with the protein. So just keep those to a minimum. All right. What else we got? Lee, have you used taurine before? I have used it in the past. I haven't used it a lot, but I usually would just take it as like a part of a pre-workout or something like that. And I usually would not have it with food. I'm trying to get to the end of these questions here, so I'm just going to kind of race through some of them. Do you have a recommendation for the brand or type of creatine? No, honestly, I don't. The one that I'm using right now, I believe, is from All Max Nutrition. I've used creatine from all kinds of different brands. I know sometimes I've gotten it from Canadian Protein, which is just their generic creatine brand. I did use some from Blue Star Nutraceuticals before. They had a good creatine. Again, when it comes to creatine, I mean, as long as you're getting just a pure creatine, it really doesn't matter, right? CreaPure is the best if you are going to get one, or at least look for one that says micronized creatine, which is a finer ground creatine. But someone mentioned right there, they're saying they use Muscle Feast. I've never even heard of that one. He says it uses CreaPure, gets it on Amazon. Cool. All right. Again, just look for a pure creatine powder. That's the main thing. And again, if it says CreaPure on the label, then you're getting the really good stuff. All right. I'm trying to get to the end of these questions, and you keep typing in more, but that's fine. That's what it's all about. What else we got? Frederick saying, have you been finding new brain cells with taurine? Is that what he means? I'm not sure. I don't think I found any new brain cells up there in a while. I've only used taurine as part of a pre-workout. I haven't really done a lot of experimenting or research on it myself, but so I'd have to do my homework on it. William's joining us. Lee, do you ever have pizza or potato chips or forbidden foods? Hell yes, I have forbidden foods. I'm not perfect. I'll eat junk food from time to time, but I do so in moderation. And I have to be honest. Let me share a story. If it's okay, I'll share a story. Right now, I'm quite happy with my nutrition because I've got myself in a place where I'm eating without really feeling like I'm forcing it or feeling deprived or anything like that. I really focus on natural, unprocessed foods primarily. Like 90% of my diet is natural, unprocessed foods. And what I mean by that, vegetables with every meal, fruit, bananas, apples, oranges, berries, grapes, whatever. I like to make up like even a blender smoothies with big bags of frozen berries and stuff. So I eat a lot of berries because I mean berries are high in fiber, high in antioxidants, really good. Lean meat, chicken, fish, eggs, uh, Greek yogurt. Those are some of my favorite protein foods. Protein powder, oatmeal, rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes. I mean, this is the type of stuff that I eat on a regular basis, and I enjoy those foods. I enjoy them, and they're filling. They satisfy my appetite. They give me energy, and they keep my weight in check. Right? I'm able to eat those type of foods without really feeling deprived or anything like that. I can eat until I'm comfortably full for the most part. Now I still keep track of the calories, but I can eat until I'm satisfied with those types of foods without getting fat. In the past, and I'm not that far in the past either. Like I'm only talking like a few years ago, back when our son was born, and even before then, right? Going through a phase where I made too many trips to the pizza parlor, if you will, right? And sometimes, just like I wasn't. I'll even back up further. The way it was for me for years is I was competing in bodybuilding on a regular basis. So I usually have the off season where I'd be relaxed with my diet, and if I wanted junk food, I'd eat junk food, blah blah blah, and I'd always justify it by saying I'm off season bulking, I can eat it. And then when I get into pre-contest phase, that's when I get like put the blinders on and go super strict, diet my ass off for 6 months and get absolutely shredded for the competition. And then after the show was over, I'd go back to eating whatever I wanted for the most part. Now, I still ate good food, but I ate some junk food in there as well. So, I mean, my weight used to yo-yo when I was competing in bodybuilding, right? Yo-yo a lot, right? So I did that, but I always justified it because every year I was going to diet down, get ready for the show. So I'd always lose that extra weight that I gained and bring it back again. Once I stopped competing in bodybuilding, that was in 2011, then it was hard because then, okay, after the show, I ate and put on some weight, but I didn't have the dieted off again, right? I never got shredded since, right? So I struggled with my weight from 2011 onwards, right? I mean, I got myself quite pudgy and porky, especially in the last few years especially when our son Harvey was born, because I was not getting a lot of sleep. If you have a new baby, or if you're a parent and you've went through the phase of having a new baby at home, there's very little sleep. So, I mean, I was feeling tired. I wasn't working out as consistently. And because of that, sometimes my willpower was just in the crapper. And I said, I don't feel like cooking chicken and vegetables. I'm just going to call Domino's and get them to deliver me a freaking pizza. Boom. All right. I did that. I admitted it. And, it doesn't take too long of doing that stuff before the weight starts to pile on. You get slack, right? And it wasn't like I purposely tried to get fat or anything like that, but you just make those poor food choices too often, and you tip the scale in the negative favor, and then all of a sudden you're starting to pile on the weight. And that's what happened to me, right? I piled on the weight. And I wasn't working out as consistently. So it's not like I was taking those calories and converting it into muscle or anything like that. I was just getting sloppy fat. And for a while, back around, I don't know, like with a couple of years ago, I mean, my waistline around the belly button expanded to 40 inches. I mean, I was downright fat, right? I mean, I got fat. And I wasn't going to, I was embarrassed, and people were noticing it too. Cause I mean, I probably, I was still doing my online thing. I was still doing like video chats and stuff like that. But people were saying like, who's this fat FUCK giving fitness advice? And I was like, man, this hurts. I got it. Finally I took a long, hard look at myself and, did the before pictures, like took off my clothes and looked at myself, and I'm like, man, I let myself go. This sucks. Right? Because in your mind's eye, you're still thinking I'm back in my bodybuilding days. But no, I mean, I was a fat slob. I was long gone from my bodybuilding days. So yeah, that was like my big wake-up call. But at the same time, I didn't want to try and like crash diet and go on some extreme cut, because I knew that's only temporary. the whole idea of going on these extreme fat loss cutting diets, like, yeah, you do it for a few weeks or a few months or whatever, and you lose a bunch of weight, but you can't maintain it as a lifestyle, right? You get to the point where, okay, you diet your ass off, you get lean, but then you run out of willpower and you can't take it anymore. And then you cheat and binge on your diet and you gain all the weight back again, right? I mean, that's why 98% of the people out there who go on a diet end up gaining all the weight back again, because they try and diet too hard. They can't maintain it. It's not a lifestyle approach, and it backfires. So what I've been really focusing on over the last couple of years is, how can I balance eating and exercise so that I enjoy it? It's not like dominating my life. It's not like 6 hours or 2 hours a day, 6 days a week in the gym. Like, how can I structure it so, yes, I'm working out, but I'm not having it take away from my work or take away from my family, and I'm not being, the selfish bodybuilder who's all just me. How can I have this a nice balanced approach where I'm staying in shape, staying relatively lean, enjoying the process, and can maintain it as a lifestyle without relying on willpower and discipline, right? How can I do that? And it's not easy. I'll be honest, it's not easy, but that's something that I've really been focusing on over the last few years. And I feel that I've got a good system in place right now. I've got a good system in place where I can eat and feel satisfied, enjoy myself, still have room for the occasional, junk food or whatever. I mean, about once a week, well, we may go out to dinner, or we may order a pizza or whatever. I mean, have date night. Myself and my wife sometimes do that, and we'll go out to the restaurant and eat. I'm not going to count calories or really restrict myself. I'm going to enjoy myself. But I have a system in place where I can make that work and fit in with my schedule. So I get the pleasure of enjoying some good food like that from time to time, without it blowing my diet or without it messing with my mind and really setting me in a negative downward spiral. Because one of the problems that a lot of people have who go on these extreme fat loss diets is, you deprive yourself so much, and you're so strict, you're so regimented, you're so put the blinders on. And then if you stray from the path even just a little bit, then it's just a negative spiral downwards, and you can't control yourself. And then you end up binging and regaining all the weight back again. And it can happen so quick. Like, what took you months to lose, you can gain back in the matter of a few weeks. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's hard to lose and it's so easy to gain. So you need to really have that system in place where it's a lifestyle balance. And that's what I'm really focusing on. And I feel that I've got it good under control right now with my own fitness and nutrition. And I'm happy with where I'm to. I mean, yeah, I could be a little bit leaner or whatever, but at the same time, right, I'm only going to the gym 3 days a week, right? I'm not starving myself or depriving myself. I can enjoy a good, healthy food and feel satisfied, and still have the forbidden foods from time to time and make it work without my weight ballooning up. I mean, right now I'm maintaining around a 200-pound body weight, and that's really, I'm quite happy with that. I mean, at my heaviest, I was up 240 at one point. I mean, that was like fat, borderline obese fat for me, especially at my height of 5'6". So, I mean, at 200 pounds, I feel good at that weight, right? I feel good. And it's a weight that I would like to maintain, maybe drop a little bit more, but at the same time, I'm not willing to sacrifice the quality of life for that. Like, back when I was doing bodybuilding shows back in the day, I mean, if you've ever been around a competitive bodybuilder, I mean, yeah, they look good and all this, and yes, they get in amazing shape, but the life of a bodybuilder is shit. It is absolute shit, right? They're going around with their Tupperware containers, and they're all selfish about, oh, I can't eat this, and I got to eat my meals, and like, the rest of their friends and family get like put off to the back burner because they're just in their own little bubble of me, getting ready for my show, and the hell with everybody else. It's not a good way to live. I mean, it's not the way for, a family man who wants to be social and everything else. It's not that kind of lifestyle. Now, I know there are some people who pull it off, but for the most part, your average competitive bodybuilder, I mean, they're pretty selfish assholes when they're getting ready for a show. And I'm speaking from experience because I was a selfish asshole when I was getting ready for shows back in the day, right? Put my, like, like family dinners and get-togethers, and it's your grandmother's 80th birthday, come over, and I say nope, not doing it because I don't want to cheat on my diet, and you just brush people off and all this kind of stuff because you were so focused on me getting ready for the show. And I mean, that's what that's sometimes required to get to that level, but it's not required to maintain a lean, healthy physique and try to have that healthy balance where you can stay lean, stay healthy, but also enjoy life at the same time, right? I mean, like, what's the point of doing all this if you can't enjoy yourself, right? You can't have a little bit of freedom and flexibility and social and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's what I'm looking for now, is that balance. And that's what I really focus on with my own training. That's what I focus on now when I'm coaching people, is helping people to develop that balance. And it's a tricky thing to do, but with some work and with some strategic planning, it can happen. And it's quite fun when you do get it down. So over the last year, I've really maintained good, healthy weight without struggling to do so, and I'm still enjoying food at the same time. All right, guys, I'm going to clue this up. This has been a long video chat for me. This is probably one of my longest ones ever, but thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I will talk to you next week. So have yourself a great weekend. Take care. Over and out.